Guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be installing cab lights or clearance lights on this 3rd gen Ram. This Ram does have the sunroof, which actually makes it a little easier to reach through here instead of going from the outside sometimes. So I've got this kit off of eBay. They're not very expensive. You can get them in different colors. You can get them clear with the amber light, but again, these are obviously smoke lens with the white light. I cut the ends off of them since I'm gonna end up direct wiring all of them anyways. So I've cut these off. It comes with the screws that holds them down. It also comes with these little buttons. You're supposed to drill a hole in the roof, and these buttons go in the hole, and the screws holds these down onto those. But I'm probably not going to end up using these. I don't want to drill that big of a hole. I'll just drill a hole that's going to be big enough to put the screw directly into the roof. I've done many of them that way and never had any issues. We don't need to remove this headlighter completely. We're just going to loosen up. We'll end up removing this, the A-pillar. We'll remove the sun visors on both sides, and this console here up on the top of the lights. That should give us enough room to run the wires through there. Okay, our first step, we're going to be removing these A-pillar covers here. To do that, you just need a small screwdriver to pop these buttons. There's 2 bolts that holds this in. There's one here, and there's one here at the bottom of the handle. Once you have these out, that'll expose the 10mm bolt that's in there. So we'll have that out. And one at the bottom here. Once those are both out, all you got to do is kind of pull on it, and that'll release, and then pull it up all the way out, and you can put that aside. It'll release the edge of the headliner here, so it'll allow it to come down a little further. We have both sides off on the A-pillars. Next thing we're going to do is remove our sun visors. A T20 Torx bit. There's 3 screws that hold the sun visors in onto the roof. All 3 screws loose. We're out on the sun visors. They come right out. Visors on this truck does have the lighted mirror inside, so it does have a wire, so you got to be careful so you don't break the wire. I'll just let it hang there, and we'll go ahead and do the other side also. Both of our sun visors loose. Now the next thing we need to do is also remove these little latches that the sun visors clip into on both sides, passenger side and driver side. To do that, just take a small screwdriver and stick it in the edge here, and what that does is just kind of releases it. It's like a 2-part, and the idea there is here, you just seen it release. It just pulls down like that, and the whole thing actually releases out of the roof. And we'll go ahead and do that on that other side also. The sun visor's loose. We have the clips for the sun visor that are kind of disengaged now. You can see the whole headliner moves. Another thing you should do is the lights that you have up on the roof there in the center. That whole cluster should come out. But it seems to be my whole thing is hanging right off of the headliner, so I'm not going to bother removing it. Looks like it's already unclipped out of the roof, so I'll leave that there. Just pull these rubber seals, because they actually, on the inside, they actually hang on to the headliner. So you want to go ahead and pull on those a little bit, and I think that should, just pulling the headliner down should give us enough room to see what we're doing. It gives me enough room right between here to see the roof where the lights are, or the wiring is going to come through for the cab lights. and that's good enough. So I don't have to remove the headliner completely or anything like that. That's plenty of clearance for me to see what I'm doing. So you just want to be careful you don't drill into the sunroof frame or anything like that. There's plenty of room here, so we'll go ahead and start mocking those up and installing the lights. So I have the lights where I want them. This doesn't have to be rocket science. There are more expensive kits that you can purchase that comes with a template for the roof. Basically a piece of paper, and it's marked where to drill the holes and put each light as far as position goes. You don't have to do that. Like I said, I've done many of them this way. The way I do it is first put the center one where it goes, and I'll center it right with the rear view mirror where it mounts to the windshield. That's the center of the windshield. And put the center one right up top, and then space the other ones equally, and put the end ones the furthest back. And you can measure the distance in between if you want. Take the headliner, at least the front portion of it, down to take a look. Make sure nothing's interfering with the wire going through or anything like that. And again, this being that it has a sunroof, you want to make sure you're not drilling into the frame for the sunroof or interfering with the sunroof in any way once you have these screwed in. So you want to check that before you drill. So once you have them kind of where you want them, equally spaced, you can mark them with a marker, dry erase marker. You can put a piece of tape for reference or what have you. Obviously we have 5 cab lights going on the roof. So the center one is our main one. So I try to center it with the rear view mirror, or you can go directly off of the passenger side wiper where it mounts to the stud right in the center. So that's how you can kind of figure out the center of the roof, or you can actually measure it and figure the center out. So once you have the center one placed where you want, you can equally space the rest of them, or however you want. You can stagger them as you go from center to side. But again, we'll go ahead and mount this one, and then we'll measure from that one to space out the rest of them. So at this time I have a piece of tape, but I've marked the center to the center of the mounting hole on the light itself. And now we'll go on the inside and make sure we're not interfering with anything once we drill through there to put the screws in. We'll also have to have another hole in the center for the wiring to go through. So you want to make sure that doesn't end up going through anything, any wiring or anything like that in the roof. Looking through the center light and kind of where I have it set, it doesn't really interfere with anything. Our main thing is not to have the hole for the wiring go right into this frame here. It'll be hard to fish the wiring through there, so you want to end up on the flat spot of the roof behind it. There's plenty of room behind it. So I think we're in good shape right where we're at. Once you're comfortable with where the light sits, it's straight, go ahead and take some type of a marker. I have this skinny marker that'll actually reach through the whole mounting holes of the light, and you want to go ahead and mark both ends. And I actually will mark the front of the light onto the tape. And the front holes are the ones I'll be using. So those are the mounting holes where I'll be drilling to mount the light. And obviously once you flip it over right in the center, we'll have to drill another hole right in the center of these holes to put the wires through the cab. I have the 3 holes drilled for our first center light onto the cab. So there's your mounting holes, one in the front, one in the back, and there's a hole in the center. Well, it's not directly in the center. I put it a little further back just so it would clear the frame that's under the roof here. And that's for the wiring. Now you have a couple different options here. The kit that you buy comes with these buttons. These buttons are supposed to go in here to hold your light, and that's what the screws goes into. The problem with that is you have to drill a much bigger hole to fit these in. And I don't think that's necessary. I'm going to put the screws right directly into the cab instead of using these buttons. Now I've done that many times and never had any rusting issues or anything like that. But what I am going to do is I've taken one of the buttons and just drilled it through with a bigger hole. I'm going to end up using that for the hole for the wire, where the wires go through. Just so it doesn't chafe the wires, we'll put that through that hole. And yeah, so it just saves the wires from shorting out onto the roof from some vibrations or what have you. So again, that's your option. You can drill bigger holes at the mounting holes and put these buttons in and screw your cab lights to those buttons, and that's up to you. But at this point, what I like to do is once they're drilled and clean, I like to take some touch-up paint. Doesn't matter what color it is, it's not going to be seen, just so it prevents the metal from rusting since we drill through it. So I'll at this point, what I'll do is I'll take some white even nail polish. It's something that dries up pretty quick, so I'll put that on there just to cover the bare metal, and then we'll go ahead and finish drilling reservoir holes for the other 4 lights. Now your light, you want to go ahead and strip the wires, make sure they're long enough to come out the other side so you can do whatever you need to do as far as the connection on the other side. So the light does come with a gasket that goes underneath, kind of like so. So that'll sit here. That's the gasket it comes with. Okay, and there are 2 screws that are going to hold this light in. They're supplied with the kit, and they come with these little gaskets. That makes a good seal, watertight seal. So let's go ahead and install this light. I did dab a little bit of silicone on the ends of the screws. Something you don't have to do since the screw heads do have the rubber seals. But I think it just creates for a better seal. So once you have that, we're ready to install this light. You go ahead and just fish the wires right through the hole that we made, and we'll set that right on there. Here we have our first light mounted. Once you get it centered, you can go ahead and tighten up those screws. Make sure the gasket underneath stays put. Now we can go ahead and space out rest of our lights where we want them and do the same thing. So we just have to repeat the same process 4 more times, or I guess if you're adding on more lights, that many times. But before you go tightening this light, you do want to make sure the wires that you put through are accessible underneath so you can make your connection. At this point I have all the lights secured in. Also, I was able to go ahead and wire them. Like I said, I directly wire them. You can go ahead and do whatever you like as far as any type of plugs or plug-in type of wires. But I directly wired them. I just took a single piece of wire and just wired them in series like that, all the way across to all the lights. Okay, as you can see so this is kind of what the goal is, to have the wiring come out right behind this frame on the roof. And I was able to do that with all of them like that. The video that I did them one at a time, you can absolutely do them that way, but you can do them however. Once you have your center one put where you want and your holes drilled, you can measure off of those and drill all the holes at the same time, and that would make things go a lot faster. But for the sake of the video, I did install the first center one and then measured off of those and worked all the other ones. You can do them however you like. Now this light kit did come with the switch, but we're not going to be using that switch. I was able to access all the wires or all the lights right through the bottom here, through the headliner. So the final wire, I was able to bring it here through the passenger side, right through the A-pillar. Now to make our connection on the passenger side of the pillar here, there's a lot of wires, and there's a drain tube for the sunroof that's running through here from the corner of the sunroof. We're going to make our connections here. This truck already has a plug here that's running multiple wires for the sunroof or what have you. There are 2 wires in this plug that are not used, so we're going to check to see if that runs off our parking lights, and we can power our cab lights through there, or clearance lights. So we're going to use a test light. So I have it grounded here under the door hinge. So we'll see which wire is power here. So we'll put our test light right in there. We'll turn our parking lights on. And as you can see, this wire goes on and off with our parking lights, and that's how we want our clearance lights to come on. So that power is there. So 2 ways you can do this. You can find a plug that'll directly plug into this. What I'm going to end up doing is cutting the wires on the other end and just making a direct contact. So the one on the bottom is your power, and the other one is the ground. So those are the wires that we're going to connect to our lights. I was able to cut these 2 wires out of there. So these are the ones that power on with your parking lights, and that's what we're going to tie your clearance lights into. These are the wires on the end of this big plug here. Normally they would come out of here, but I don't have this end of the plug or anything like that, so I just cut them out of there. So there's 2 wires again. There's a white with green stripe and a black. Obviously white, green is your power, and the black is your ground. So we'll go ahead and make that connection with this wire, go into our clearance lights, and then we'll go ahead and test that connection. I was able to make the connections with the 2 wires here, and I secured all the wires actually using these plastic ties. I've taped up the connection so it's nice and sealed up. Nothing's gonna rattle around in here. Now before we button everything up, let's go ahead and test our lights. Turn the parking lights on. Looks like our lights are on. They look good. That's the look I was going for. Now that we know our lights are working, we can go ahead and button everything up, put our headliner back on, our sun visors. We'll just reverse the process how you took them off, and put all the screws and everything back in. So we have everything buttoned back up. Actually, there wasn't much. It looked quite a bit when we first took them apart. But the sun visors, these hooks, remember, they push right back in and lock in on both sides. And 3 Torx T20 screws for the sun visors here. And then don't forget your 10 millimeter bolts that go right by the handles here on both sides. Everything just snaps back in. Put your seals back on both sides, and that's it. Let's take a final look.